Welcome to Conversations with the Commissioner. Ladies and gentlemen, as you know by now, if you've been watching all these, I am your Commissioner, Delonte Smith. And I would kind of say that today's a sad day because today we come to the last episode of Conversations with the Commissioner. Ladies and gentlemen, we've gotten through all 13 of these fantastic owners. Well, we're getting to the final one of the 13, and that is going to be, of course, the Buford Bombers, which is I'm excited for this conversation as I've been for all the other ones. This gentleman has been a friend for many years. His family has helped me out in ways that they will understand. But before we get into that, let me bring him in. Ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome in Mr. Bradley Allan. Brad, how are you,
Hey,
sir?
doing great. Good to
Welcome
spend
to
a Sunday morning with you.
Conversations.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
Yo, it's an honor, man. I got to be honest. This that we had the conversation with Cedric, about friends in the league, and all of you are my friends, but you are a friend that have gone back for years. I mean, we went to high school together.
Yeah.
We've shared many memories and enjoyment. You took me to my first Bucks game, which was
Yeah.
amazing. Yeah. So, it was awesome. My first time I played Madden was with you. So there's many memories that I share with owners in this league, but this is a special one, sir. So, shall we get to the conversation? Are you
Yeah,
ready to
man.
get to it?
Yeah, we can get into it.
All righty, let's do that. So, first one I got for you. When it comes to building the Buford Bombers, what's the philosophy on your team structure?
So I would say there's kind of two levels of the philosophy of building a team in this league. First, you've got the dynasty, the keeper aspect of things, where you are trying to stay competitive for a stretch of time. Um, but there are windows where you kind of capitalize on some of your players being at their peak. And then there's the philosophy of like the day to day. How do I score these points? Um,
Mhm.
and so when it comes to how do I score these points, I look for guys that are consistent double double threats. That's what I want. This league rewards double doubles. It very much rewards triple doubles. The triple double guys are the cheat codes of this league. When you can get a hold of a Joker, of a Luca. Years ago, it was Russell Westbrook, James Harden. Those were the cheat codes. You get a hold of a guy like that, that is your ticket to a top four seed in the playoffs. So when I'm building a team, I'm looking for who can the next guy be that could be that triple double threat. And at worst, like who are guys that I see either are right now or will develop into being consistent double double guys.
That's very interesting, sir. There's not many owners. I don't think if anybody has brought up that is a key to our league. I love the thought of the cheat code for the triple double guy because you're absolutely correct. If you get a guy who's going to give you a consistent triple double, you're talking 70 to 100 points, depending on what they're putting up.
Yeah.
And a 100-point player is very rare in this league. But
Mhm.
when they come about, you kind of got to hold on to them. We've spoken about other owners, Korean Soul Brothers, the Bay Mob that have passed around that 100-point player. That yeah, another jewel that's been dropped. I also, before we
And
get too far,
yeah, go ahead.
I want to thank you on camera, sir, because you may not know this, and many other people don't know this, is that you have helped me kind of form the structure to this keepers league and making us a dynasty. When there was a lot of fluff and hoopla of like the rule changes and things that have gone on,
Mhm.
you brought a clear-headed explanation and way that we could go forth and kind of change the rules to tweak them to make them better. And
Mhm.
man, it's next to having you on the SLC, I mean, I've really valued your opinion and time that you've given to the league because we are in a complex because of the Buford Bombers. So
Well, I appreciate it. That comes from dynasty basketball is not a popular platform for fantasy basketball yet. And fantasy basketball in general is a much smaller community than fantasy football, which is where I spend a lot of my time. Anybody who gets me in the first 4 or 5 weeks of the season and the BFBA knows they've got an easier time because I'm not making the roster moves. I'm managing 4 or 5 different teams on the football side, trying to make playoff runs. So you get a little less attentive version of me. But I've played in dynasty football leagues for, I think my oldest league just hit our 10-year this year. So like I've been playing dynasty football since before Patrick Mahomes was in the NFL. So I've seen kind of how what works, what doesn't work, how you make a league competitive, and you put more effort into it than most commissioners would, and then any commissioners I play with. And so you being able to like take all of these suggestions on board, sift through things, and kind of make it a higher level experience is like makes this league a lot of fun. So just like kudos back to you.
I appreciate that. It's your guys' ideas. We're wrestling fans, right? So I think in a lot. Yo, you see it? Yes, yeah. Yeah. I'll share a quick little story with you. When he was in NXT, he called me a dummy, and I feel emboldened in life to be. I was called a dummy by Eli Drake. That's if you know about it, you know about it. But yeah, man, taking that level of wrestling, right? Mm-hmm. And though it is kind of in a sense of fantasy, and adding a bit of a flair to this league is kind of what I've done or what we've done, and I think it's worked. I think that the other owners are enjoying what's happening. There's a bit of we're blurring the lines here at certain points that some people may not. Well, is this real? Is this fake? Right. But it's making us want to fight for that guy right there. Mm-hmm. It's really, I think, at the end of the season, who holds that, it's going to be really joyous. Like you're really going to be like, yo, I did it.
Oh yeah.
Hopefully it's you. You spoke a little bit about it. How do you evaluate that team that you got, and are there any standout players that you're particularly excited about?
So I'll say that there are some players that I had to let go to make this team more competitive for a playoff run that I was very excited about. I am a huge Jalen Williams fan over on the Thunder. I think with him and SGA, that is such a special team. And when they have Chet, they're even better. But like you saw, Isaiah Hartenstein came in and has done a great job. The other Jalen Williams, spell it a little different, can come in and play the 5 there, and they're still a great team. And I let SGA go a couple years ago to get Tyrese Halliburton, which was a tough call. But kind of getting back to it, that's a guy that I was really excited about. Had to let him go because I wanted a player that I was more excited about. I'll go back to that philosophy question, the double-double guy. Onyeka Okongwu is a player that I am stoked about. Anybody who's been in this league for very long knows I'm a Hawks fan. I've been quiet for a couple of years because they have been not great. We are fighting for like a play-in spot every season since that like great run we had. The Bud run really was like the last great one we had. Millsap and Al Horford and all those guys. I think that was might have been the Taurean Prince rookie year. Like I had a Taurean Prince jersey, man. Like I was all in on that version of the Hawks, and
that's a true fan, man.
They just tore it down to the studs, and I even jumped on the Trae Young bandwagon, and like I almost wore. It's a little snug on me right now. I've been putting on that sympathy weight, but I almost wore my Trae Young shirt today. It's the MLK jersey actually, so it would have been a great weekend for it.
That would have been perfect.
Unfortunately,
Yeah.
I'm about 15 pounds too heavy to wear that right now. So, but
That's my Carmelo Anthony jersey. So I feel
yeah.
you.
So, I love the Hawks. I love to have a Hawk that I believe in on my team. DeAndre Hunter's been floating around my bench, and that's fun, but that's not that's a role player. Like, he's the token Hawk right now. But no, Okongwu is a player who I know Kyle recognized the value in him and snapped him up. And that's been a player who I've had in my sights. If I can get a deal done with Kyle, Okongwu is coming to my team. He will be a part of that deal. So
Okay.
I don't know if Kyle knew that or not, but that was when he approached me about doing a trade. That was going to be a big part of it for me.
And let me just because I don't have full clarification on the deal. I'm trying to get it right now, but he was a part of that deal. So that deal that we just let's just talk about it. We just made 2 blockbuster deals just in the last 2 days. What prompted those moves, and how does that envision your team, or how do you envision that impacting your team going forward?
So this is the time of year as we're getting close to the All-Star break where I think all of the serious managers who've been in this league for a long time take a look at their rosters and say, do I have the pieces? Do I have the horses to run this race? Or do I need to start consolidating talent and making moves to improve my roster for the next 3 years or 5 years or just next year, whatever it is for you? I looked at my team, and it wasn't about the players necessarily. It was about, do I have the capital to get a team that I think can make the run? So what that means for me is I've been building my team, going back to the kind of the 10,000 foot view philosophy. I had been building a young team. My team had very few players over 29. Halliburton, Miles Turner, Jalen Williams, Desmond Bain, Tyler Hero, like young guys that some of them haven't even hit their peak yet. Those guys are valuable to other teams. And it let me turn Halliburton and Turner into De'Aaron Fox and Damian Lillard. Damian Lillard's an expiring asset, but if you're trying to make a run now, he's worth more than Desmond Bain. He's worth more than Miles Turner right now. Love Miles Turner. Rim protector, baby. I love a tough guy. Plays in a Midwest city, small market team. I love that. Miles Turner was not going to get me a championship. So I was able to turn those 2 guys, and I love Tyrese Halliburton. Gave up SGA for Tyrese Halliburton. But Tyrese Halliburton is now Cade Cunningham. Cade Cunningham's usage is so much better for production on a fantasy basketball team than Tyrese Halliburton, because Cade Cunningham isn't sharing the ball with Pascal Siakam. He scores 35 points all the time. He's the primary ball distributor. That's a better piece for me. I had the injury slots on my bench to absorb Isaiah Hartenstein. I can take that injury on for right now because Chet's not coming back for a while. So now I get the post player minutes in OKC. I get the rebounds. He's a double-double guy. Goes back to that double-double thing. Okongwu, Hartenstein, these are double-double players. That's worth more to me than a player that scores 25 every night and then has 3 rebounds, 2 assists. Klay Thompson came over in this deal too. Klay Thompson was the least important part of that deal. Kyle threw him in, sure. Klay Thompson is better than the last player on my bench right now. So I took him.
Which is so interesting that at this current form where we are, we've been in the Keepers League when Klay Thompson was great. That now Klay Thompson is an add-on, right?
Yeah, And that's part of playing fantasy basketball, is realizing that guys who are great for an NBA team, like Klay Thompson's an important part of the Dallas Mavericks right now. He serves a role. Drew Holiday's on my team.
Yes.
Such a vital part of the Boston Celtics, of so many teams that he's been a part of. He's like a Pat Beverly. These guys are great for an NBA squad. They're filler on your fantasy team. If I met Drew Holiday in person, I would gush about how great of a defender he is, how great I think he is for the game of basketball, how I wish more kids would model their game after Drew Holiday and less model their game after Steph Curry, because I think Drew's form of basketball is way more entertaining and way
it's
more
all around.
Right. He's an all-around player, but that means nothing to me on a fantasy roster.
Right, because though he's an all-around player in real life, that all-around for us, excuse me, will only get us, 17, 26 points max on a fluctuation.
Until we are able to build in a mechanic that factors in like field goal percentage of the opponent that you're guarding in man-to-man defense over the course of a game. Until we can build that mechanic, if you want to play an all defense NBA fantasy league, which I would, but
I'd be interested. And I think you have a few other owners in here that because there's so much competition in here, they'll play any type of style. If we're playing just rebounds, we will be like, I'm in.
There was
I'll be the greatest rebounding team ever.
Right. There was a 50 message thread about horse racing yesterday. This is a competitive group of people that will try to compete and win in anything.
Let me just say my apologies. That is a great pastime that I love to have. I'll sit here and just watch some ponies race on my phone, and I wasn't expecting to get the threads that we got about
traction.
Wanting to start a daily horse betting. My apologies. But let's we've spoken about the league some. Looking back at your 7 seasons, and we've they felt like they've been longer. But 7 seasons in the BFBA, you have an overall record of 66-55. So we're in the plus. With your first season, and we're going to get to this, being a 2019 finals appearance, what stands out most about your time in the league?
I think what stands out the most, and I know there are some other questions coming that are going to kind of overlap with this, but what stands out the most to me is probably the level of interaction in this league. It's not as much to do with my teams or my records. I am impressed with some teams that have been able to be very consistent in this league. I think Kyle is probably in his 5th season now, and this is the first down season that he's had.
Yes.
Super consistent. It's really been the level of a lot of the guys that have come in since I joined. When I joined, there were some guys who were pretty casual and, it kind of fell off, and we'd lose them halfway through the season. By the All-Star break, guys weren't setting lineups. This is a league where we have 14 teams and there are no slouch teams. And what I mean by that is there are no teams that are not paying attention. Malcolm's in a ravine right now. His team is he's in a rebuilding mode. He's got one of the best players in the league on his team, and he's trying to do what he can to like cobble together the rest of it. But he still sets his lineup every week.
Right.
You know, he's still competing. He's not like throwing out a team that's going to score 600. You know, just because he doesn't care.
He's not competitive, but he's still active. Right. Like
Yeah,
it's an easy win just because of the roster, not because of who you're playing.
Yeah, a good league. What stands out to me the most about this league is that even if you're not competitive that year, you're still active, and everybody treats it like a league where they do, because it's a dynasty league, they do, or a keeper league. We're kind of in that in between zone. Everybody wants that trophy someday.
Mm-hmm.
And even if I know I'm 3 years out, like I'm going to still pay attention. I'm going to still be around and like do what I can. So I think that's the thing that stands out the most. You know, and if you wanted a specific season, the first one was great. That was a lot of fun. I would say, oh man, I don't know. Other than that, I think the way we had to navigate 2020 was really interesting.
That
was, I know that season has come up a lot in discussions lately.
Yeah.
But,
right.
you know, it's been a really wild couple of seasons. And then we made I think the first 2 or 3 years we were a redraft still.
Yep.
We were picking a new team every year. That year that I made the finals run was a straight draft.
Mm-hmm.
I will say there's one thing that's always bothered me. It's bothered me for a few years. There was a season where we were supposed to start a dynasty. We're supposed to start with keepers. And then in the off season, everyone voted and we restarted it.
They wanted to redraft.
I had Nikola Jokic on that team. I had Jokic. I had a great team. And I'm still salty about the fact that I put together a really solid roster. I was in on Joker before any of you were in on him. Any of you. And I lost out on him because he was like the number 2 pick and I didn't have the draft pick for it.
That's a hot take, ladies and gentlemen. That right there, that lets you, man, you know what? I actually forgot about that, but you're absolutely correct. Yeah, you had the team, and that was a conversation that you and I had. With one of those, hey man, right? Can we do this next season? Right? Like, I want this team. So, I will say one thing. Your honesty has been, it's been taken. I love it. You were also one of the owners that when we went into becoming a dynasty keepers league, you made a really big deal, like a big trade deal, and people were like, "Whoa, what's going on?" And that was one of the first ones that led to, of course, the bylaws and things that, hey, if I'm going to be in this for 3-4 years, these guys are going to benefit me for seasons to come. So it may look like I'm tanking, which you were not because you made the playoffs that season.
Mm-hmm.
But it kind of led and paved the way for other owners to be like, okay, I can go this way. I can do that, right? I can drop those guys. I mean, look at the Brooklyn Stoop kids, went 3 seasons, didn't make the playoffs, but was in the NIT, won the NIT, got the lottery for 3 years in a row. Somehow, it was not me, okay? Let me just, because I know if I say somehow, people are going to be like, oh, it was the commissioner. Was not me. Luck was on her side. For 3 seasons, and then picks top 3 picks, wins the playoffs, or wins the championship, sorry.
Yeah.
So
there's something to be said for building via youth, and it's why I sometimes will get frustrated. I'll try to do deals with teams and I'll just use, I can't remember who had him, but last season at some point, I think I was trying to get a deal done to get James Harden on my team as a part of another deal. And I was like, look, man, like this dude's got 2 years left, maybe 3 in the league. Like I he can contribute to my team now. The team I was dealing with, I was like, I think you might be better off with these younger assets. I'm going to throw in a draft pick, try to make the deal a little bit sweet. And I thought I was giving him a good deal. But, you know, people get attached to those names, to those like players who have been in the league for a long time. And, you know, especially if they're going on a run, you know, somebody else got injured, they're seeing increased usage. Like, that's how it is. But, like, at some point, I would love to have Harden on my team. Everybody's probably seen that by now.
Wait, we haven't. What is the dude?
Zombie
This man,
Harden?
give this man his deal, people.
Y'all ain't never seen Zombie Harden?
No,
I
bro.
got
I didn't
that
know
when he was
about
on the
this.
Thunder. I made a bet with my roommate Jamal on the 2012 Western Conference Finals. And I bet that the Spurs, who were already up 1-0, I made a bet that the Spurs were going to advance to the finals again. I believed in the big fundamental. I thought that they were going to get another title. And Durant and Harden and Westbrook put them down.
Yeah, they killed that.
Yeah, and the deal was a tattoo. It was a tattoo bet, and so I had to get Harden. But my tattoo artist was like, "Dude, I feel kind of weird putting like tattooing like black skin onto white skin." He's like,
okay.
Like, I feel like it would be kind of weird to like do full color of him because you don't do black and gray tattoos. He's like, I don't know. It just feels weird. Like, it feels kind of, you know, I was like, no, I get it. But The Walking Dead was really big back then. He's like, what if we made him a zombie? I was like, oh, dude, Zombie Harden's awesome. Yeah, we can do Zombie Harden. You just make him like green because he's decaying.
Right.
Like, and so that's what we did. So we got
I never knew this. And if you're watching my 2023 finals run where I won the championship, Harden was on my team. I traded him to the Evil Empire. So if I would have known that this was something, man, we should have did. I would have sent him to the Bombers, man.
I mean, I'm hoping that like his last year in the league, somebody will trade him over to me. You know,
there you go. You get one with him, right?
He's in the Clay mode where he's like a 25 point a night, you know, 25 points in fantasy kind of player. Like, I can get him as a part. But yeah, no, I've been walking around with James Harden on my arm for, let's see, it's 2025. Yeah, this summer will be 13 years. Me and James.
Oh man. I wish I would have known that. Well, I mean, I think there's two ways. If whoever's got him, and we won't talk about the team owner, I'll give the respect to the team owner of who he belongs to. But if you're watching this and you want to do that deal, you got a couple months. Or if he lands to Cedric, you know, you can always go to Cedric Auto Players. He'll give you the deal the right way. Sorry, let's talk about that finals appearance though. Finishing as a runner-up in your first season, which was 2019, it must have been unexpected. But how did that playoff run impact your mindset and strategy, you know, for the seasons to follow?
It made me think, oh, I've got this. I did not have this. Like, there was some serious luck there. And speaking of Cedric, that's who I lost to that year.
Yeah.
That was his title run. But no, I had I couldn't even tell you who was on that team. I have barely any recollection of that team.
Let's see if we can pull it up really quick. That's
a lot of people who are in this league now weren't around then. And I think it was 12 teams that year.
Yes, that was the 2021 year. Actually, that was
I think that was 2019.
The 2021-22 season. Your team was, I'll tell you right now, see if they'll allow me to bring it up.
Oh no, this would have been older than that.
Well, no, so it was the Y'all Joker. Oh wait, was it the 2019 season?
It was the 2019 season. This was like a full redraft team.
Yes, you're correct. Is where it was the New York NYC. So something very interesting about that title. And we've had conversations about this, so this isn't anything. That is the year that Cedric goes and makes that deal right before trade deadline that he says to win. That's the title. So
Oh, yeah.
you actually are now the other side of this story of the person who faced him in the finals for the championship, because he had made supposedly a blockbuster splash before that. I can't exactly pull up the team,
Yeah.
but you know that there's a piece of history, a piece of news to add to that,
Right.
is that, you know, that could have been your year, maybe, if that deal doesn't go through.
Yeah, it could have been. And again, I can't recall who would have been on that team. But you know, it was something where I came into the league. The league was, I don't want to say it wasn't in a good place. It was a fun league. The teams that were engaged were very engaged. And
okay, so
yeah.
league sources have brought it up to me. You finished 15-6 that year. You had Deion Wright, Wade Ellington, Kavari Sampson, Nikolai Jokic, John Collins, Jared Allen, Walt Lemon, Frank Kaminsky, Ivan Rabb, Jimmy Butler, Alfred Payton.
It was
so
okay. So I had went and got Jimmy Butler. Okay, I'll tell you exactly how I made that finals run. Somebody had dropped Jimmy Butler. This was before we had IR spots for teams who are new to this. We didn't have IR spots back then. So if you had a guy get hurt and he was on the shelf for, you know, half the season, you dropped him. Or he sat on your bench and he ate a spot and you were down a player every week. And Jimmy Butler, the news came out that he was going to be back in like a week or two. And I spent, I think, $651. $551.
Yeah.
I spent 55% plus one of my budget for the year to go get Jimmy Butler. And I did, and that's the only reason I made that run, because the rest of that roster, half of those guys, I don't even remember seeing play in the NBA.
And half of this team is not even in the league now.
A lot of those guys were like one contract guys.
Four guys that are still playing in the league today.
Right. And some of those are retired guys that, you know, had good careers and they've just aged out. It's, you know, it's 7 years ago, but yeah,
right.
It's not a lot of that team is still in the league.
Yeah, that's I mean, that's really interesting. I mean, you know, those are the guys that you have on that team. If we go back and we talk about wanting to keep that team, right?
Mm-hmm.
You're still sitting on Joker. You're still sitting on Jared Allen, who was probably in his rookie season that year, if I think.
Yeah.
You're still sitting on Jimmy Butler, or you've moved him by now because he's now gone from, I think, 2 teams. He was on the 76ers at that point when you had
Sixers season. Yeah.
So, you know, I mean, I benefited from Jimmy Butler, also my championship season. So the thought is the what if is really there, you know, because we've gone from expansion to, you know, to keepers, to redraft, to, you know.
Yeah, and I part of the thing that I think makes this league great is the free agent acquisition budget aspect of it. That's such a, like, that concept is something that's been slow to catch on in fantasy football circles. A lot of fantasy football leagues still run on the waiver system, but fantasy basketball, I think it's more important to run the budget because we've got games every day.
Right.
We've got 7 days a week where we're trying to pick up players, and there are going to come times where a guy shows up kind of out of nowhere, or a guy hits the wire that maybe shouldn't hit the wire just because of extenuating circumstances. And savvy teams should be able to be rewarded by getting that player if they're willing to go all in. And teams that blow their budget 8 weeks into the season shouldn't have a shot at him.
I agree, sir. I that was the reason why we wanted to start the acquisition budget. It really was a free for all. You can go get whoever you wanted. You can go pick them up 5 minutes before. There wasn't really a structure to it, and people have complained about the timing and when you have to pick it up. Being 12 o'clock allows us to get the. It isn't because it used to be later, and we missed out on a lot of earlier games. The weekend games were really the ones that we missed out on. So, and we've talked about it in other episodes. It's not necessarily about how you're managing your pocketbook, but like how are you keeping your household, right? Like how's that team really being held up together? Because I think the teams that are out of a budget are also the teams that are scrambling for what their identity is as a team. And what their identity is within the league. So I think this is, there's those learning pains. I went through them as well. With the first thought of when we started to do the acquisition budget, I went into the playoffs with $20. So to learn that you're not going anywhere in the playoffs with $20, and if your team isn't solid and you're not on a 14 or 15 game win streak,
right?
Then there's no need. Right.
You're going to have a guy who puts up 35. We're not going to say a star, but let's just say you've got a guy who's maybe the fourth best player on your team. He's a 35, a 40 fantasy point a game player. That guy's going to get injured. And in order to fill that gap, you're going to have to rotate through free agent guys. You're going to have a guy who can give you maybe 25 points every night to replace that guy, because sometimes those guys are going to give you 7. They're going to play 13 minutes. They're going to have 2 rebounds and 5 points, and they're going to turn it over.
I've never given any of my insight, because I allow the insight to come from you all. But one strategy that the commissioner has as the owner of the Sham Gods is I have 2 to 3 available roster spots on my roster at all times. So realistically, if I have a roster of 15, I have a set roster of 12, so that if a guy goes down, he's now on IR, and now I'm rotating, as you just said, and similar to the matchup that we've had this week between you and I, that 1 to 2 guy is coming in every other day.
And that's been something that we've both been doing. You look at if any of y'all want to go to the matchup and check the Sham Gods and the Buford Bombers matchup this week, it has been a lot of acquisitions. I haven't looked at the waivers. The waivers have run since you and I have been talking. But I haven't claimed yet. I'm sure you had 1 or 2 claims in.
I did as well. So yeah, out of 14, and being a keepers league, you're not really making that many acquisitions, but you have 14 acquisitions. We are about halfway there. So that really shows you that it's a close and good matchup when, you're sitting on 6, I'm sitting on 5. We've pretty much, and when we're in the playoffs, or if you're in those races to get to those playoff matchups, you're at 14, you're at 8, you're at 11, and we moved up from 7. And I think it's really helped us because it allows for you to really kind of run your team and make it competitive from week to week. You're not losing on a Wednesday. Sometimes you do. Sometimes you're down 300 points because the first 2 days have been heavy. But you also can overcome those.
Yeah, sometimes you get hit where, so one of the things I'm going to kind of circle back to roster construction, and part of what made some of these deals happen for me is sometimes you're too heavy on one team, one NBA team. At the end of last season, I had Miles Turner, Pascal Siakam, and Tyrese Halliburton on my team. The big 3 Pacers, all on my team. That's dumb. That's dumb because when the Pacers play a back-to-back and Halliburton gets a rest night because his quad's been bothering him, and Pascal Siakam is just like worn out, and one of them doesn't play one night and the other one doesn't play the other night, that's like 80 points potentially that I don't have. Like, part of moving these players around, and I'm still too heavy on one team. if anybody wants to make a play for one of my Trailblazers, send me an offer. I've got 3 Trailblazers on my team right now. It's too many. I don't like to be too heavily invested. 20% of my active roster playing for one NBA team is too many.
Yeah.
Right now I've got DeAndre Ayton, Shaden Sharp, and Scoot Henderson, who, what a week and a half Scoot Henderson's been having.
It was unexpected coming from me. I was not expecting him to be one of the main contributors this week for you.
No, I mean, 39 points. He had 39-point game the other night. Like, good for you, young guy. Second year in the league, he's really starting to like show flashes. Now, is he ever going to be the centerpiece for a team? I don't know that he will, but it's good to know that that's in the bag, and maybe some other team is going to see that. I don't think Portland's going to hold on to him long term, but and this is NBA talk now. I don't think Portland will hold on to him long term. I think that's an asset that they may be able to flip to a less savvy organization. But who knows?
Yeah, I think giving Scoop somebody that's a veteran presence around him that can kind of he doesn't have to demand the ball or be the main contributor of the team or be expected to be. He may flourish into something, but we currently don't necessarily know. There was one owner that was really in on Scoop and moved away kind of early. That I think that on a fantasy level, you may be able to find a team owner out there that's willing to sit tight, and willing to ride that Scoop train. It's so interesting. Through these conversations that I've had with other owners, this is now the 3rd time that Scoop Henderson's name has come up in an interview, which means that this is now the 3rd team that he's been on this season. He's gone from the Korean Soul Brothers at the start of the season. He then moved to the NY Mindset of Fighters. Now, he's sitting with the Buford Bombers. So, somebody will probably find value, and maybe it'll be you, come this season or next, of what Scoop can really do.
I do like him. He spent most of last season on my team too. He was a cut casualty. If this were I'm gonna call it a true dynasty league where we were keeping, I think in an NBA league you would realistically keep 12, and then you kind of cycle through three rookies or back end bench players. If we were playing like a real dynasty style, Scoot absolutely would have been on my team. He's a player that I think if he were to, like you said, be paired with a veteran presence, I think a veteran forward would probably be best for him. Somebody who could take the scoring load and whose body physically could hold up to doing that. That could be a good pairing for him. But get him, if he can get run with the first team on a consistent basis on a team, I think that would be great for him. I think he'll be a good player. I don't think he'll ever be an all NBA point guard, but there's nothing to stop him from being a meaningful contributor on a fantasy basketball team. That guy, like I said, I'm going to circle back to the philosophy question again. That's a potential double-double guy. He can get to the point where he's distributing 10, 12 assists a night and scoring 20. And that's super valuable in this league.
Definitely. So we've talked a lot. We've talked about the deals. We've talked about where you've been in the season. We've talked about the finals. Final.
Going out a little bit on me.
I think Can you hear me now? Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. We're good.
Okay, great. Where are we on the road to a BFBA championship?
Well, I think, kind of building off the talk of the deals, I think this season, I'm in on this season. Um, you look at the deals I made, they are not in my best interest long term. I made those deals to put myself in a position where if, the injuries don't kill me, I think I have a squad that can definitely make it to the second round. Um, I think when you look at the back end of my schedule versus the back end of schedules of other teams that are at a similar record to where I'm at within a game or two, my schedule looks a lot better. That's not a shot at anybody that's in particular that's on my schedule. There are good teams on my schedule still. But I have several games that I should win, and then games that I'm going to be competitive in, and I've got the budget to compete and make the acquisitions necessary if I need to win. So I think I should be able to get into that 6 to, maybe the 6-5-4 seeds. That's where I'm looking to be. I think if I can get there, I can win a game in the playoffs, and then it's injuries. It's injuries. It's luck. It's the NBA schedule. Like, I haven't looked at what the schedule is, but sometimes you get a week where your team plays. There's going to be a week where the San Antonio Spurs play on Tuesday and they play on Friday, and those are the only two games they have that week. And whoever's holding Wemby, you only get him twice.
Right.
And maybe that week the Pistons get to play Sunday, Tuesday, and then they play back-to-back Friday and Saturday, and Cade Cunningham's playing 4 games that week. I'll take that. I can catch you on the right week. I haven't delved that deep into the NBA schedule, but like we talked earlier about rest days, a star player gets a rest day and my guys don't get a rest day. That can be all it takes to swing a week in my favor. I think I'm not going to say I'm confident that I'm going to be playing for the championship this year, but if I had to see this team that I've put together now in the second or third round, if you're seeing me in the semifinals, like, I wouldn't take it as a guarantee.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of teams that already know that. Looking at your schedule and the play and the teams that you have beaten, are those playoff teams. There was a week where it was me, it was the Evil Empire, and it was the NY set of fighters. That you went on a 5-game win streak, and those were out of that 5-game win streak, those were the 3 teams that you put away. And there, of course, there are 2 others that I'm not going to go into full detail. But one thing I will say is that there is a nice and pause the background, but there is a really nice battle that's going on for the 7th through 10th spot, and then there's a nice battle that's going between 4, 5, and 6. Here's the kicker to this: that 7 to 10 battle and that 4, 5, or 6. There's one game that separates them.
Right.
So and realistically, if the Evil Empire loses one more game this season, now they have fallen into it as well. So now it's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10.
Right.
Where one game can move you from the 4th seed to out of the playoffs. So and I think that's how we're gonna go pretty much for the rest of the season.
I think so. This has been we talk about the competition level in this league, and this is, I think, the most competitive season we've had in terms of how few teams are eliminated from the playoffs by the All-Star break. Usually there's like 3, 4 that we know are gone. And then there's a couple teams that are like, the week we come after the All-Star break, that might be it for you.
Yeah.
That's not going to be the case this season. It's going to come down to the last week of the season. And like you said, there could very easily be a situation that last week where somebody goes from 10 up to 7 and somebody goes from 5 and drops out.
Yeah. Yeah. This season resembles our 2020 season that, of course, was ended via COVID. But those final games are going to mean playoff seeding. And you're correct. I'll be honest. This is our last conversation. the DC Hustlers, the Nether Chosen Warriors, and Shake and Bake 2.0 are 1 to 2 games away from being eliminated from the playoffs. But they already know that. And who's sitting on that bubble spot is Trader Danny. If he has 2 good weeks, now he's back in playoff contention. And after that, we've now locked it down to 10 teams.
Yeah.
And 2 of those teams are not making the playoffs. And
there's going to be a good team. There's going to be a good team. There's going to be 2, well-constructed teams that don't make the playoffs this year.
Yeah.
It's just going to happen. And maybe what it's probably going to come down to is injuries. It's unfortunate, but that's the game. And hopefully, it's not a star player, a marquee player for the NBA that goes down. But that's how it all comes back to philosophy of roster construction. When you rely too heavily on 1 or 2 marquee players, one of those players going down will derail your entire season.
Oh, for sure.
If
I'll just jump in and say that just to piggyback on that, there are also not even so much injury, but as we get into that playoff push, and you're not financially steady, or if the money's not there, and you got those guys that were taking rest days, as you were talking about, Wemby's only playing 2 games, that will also derail your season.
Absolutely. And one of the other things we talk about rest days, if the management of an NBA franchise decides to play it cute and doesn't let the public know when a guy's taking a rest day early enough, they try to keep him listed day to day.
Yep.
And we get past the point where you can drop a guy into your IR spot. An NBA executive can derail your season, can absolutely tank a week for you. And in
That's
this,
very
somebody might miss the playoffs because some guy in Dallas got cute with an injury declaration.
Yeah. A guy showed up 5 minutes late to the bus, and you have an asshole coach that is just like, no, you don't play, and it doesn't matter who you are. And it just killed your season. So
if you've got Trae Young, I'm sorry, but as a Hawks fan, there's always a chance he's going to do something stupid and cost you a game at the last minute.
Well, sir, this has been an excellent conversation. You have answered every question that I had with honesty, and I want to thank you for that. Yet again, you've dropped jewels. If there are new owners that are watching this, I want you to listen to this one in particular, because this gentleman just gave you a lot of keys to be successful in this league and to pay attention to the rules in this league. A lot of people are just having fun and enjoying the camaraderie, but I don't think they know the rules or the bylaws of how this league works, and that's how you don't win championships.
Right.
I got one more question for you. 2026 expansion year. I've asked this to every other owner, so you're going to be the last one that I asked this to. What advice can you give to new fantasy owners who want to be competitive in this league?
Don't blow your budget too fast. That's number 1. Number 2, I would say don't put all your eggs in one basket. That means both going all in on a big-time player and going all in on an NBA team, even if it's your team. And number 3, stay away from Cedric for the first 3 years.
Excellent advice, sir. I think that is fantastic advice.
I love you, Cedric.
Brad, I want to thank you. I also want to just take a moment to thank every other league owner that has sat down with me this season. This has been a fantastic opportunity that I've had to get to know everyone. Some of you, of course, I've known for years, but to get to know how you are, we catch up. And then other league owners are getting an opportunity to get to know you all as well. So thank you for allowing me in your homes. Thank you for allowing me to annoy you with text messages and ask for photos and, try to work out timing. This has been fantastic. And it's been an honor. I want to wish sincerely you, Brad, but everybody else in the league health. And, I'm not going to wish you championships right now, but I will say, I wish your teams the best of luck for the rest of this year, and may the best team win. We're all fighting for that. Where is it? We're that guy right there. And there's more to come. I think, we're starting to get to the tip of that iceberg, and then we're going to climb it so we can see how big we really are as a league.
Absolutely.
So thank you, sir. Thank you for sitting
My
down.
pleasure.
Any last words before we're out of here?
No, it's been a pleasure. Glad to get to sit down with you and have a conversation. I know a lot of people haven't spent much time with me. I'm not always super active in the chat. So I hope y'all learned a little bit about me, but not too much, that you can take advantage of me in trades. So
yeah, I think this is a great opportunity, man. We've gotten the mindset of what it takes to be a Buford Bomber and how to run the team, but you're able to come correct with those deals now because people know that, like, yo, man, you're in it to win it. You're not here like some other owners may be, and we won't get into that because we've already spoken to them. But Brad, again, thank you, sir. I appreciate your time, and ladies and gentlemen, for the last time, I guess I'm going to get to say this. This has been a conversation with your commissioner. Have a good one, guys.